The New Real Truth Congregation is proud to present the Real Truth in association with the Real Truth YouTube channel. Veritas Totum et Salam Veritatum. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Hello, this is the Couch Criminal, aka Clever Sausage at the Real Truth TV. I just had a quick thought and I wrote it down, and I thought I'd put it into this, what I've got a nickname, 1 minute questionnaire, right? Video. It may be a bit longer than that, but I'll strive for it to be a couple of minutes long. You had this thought that you're online at a certain website, say like sacredtext.com. For whatever reason, perhaps you're doing your own personal research on a subject, when you come across some eye-catching information, you read it, maybe make a mental note of it, you copy and paste it, write it down and keep it, and maybe sometime later you'll recall it and parrot it to someone else in order to create or stress a point or a fact, etc. You argue it true or fact as you have a huge ego and you want your opinion alone to be accepted, to be the one. Perhaps the other person's perspectives, opinions, views don't count or don't matter to you. Maybe you have a bias or a hidden motive or agenda, right? You're trying to push something, right? Be it a religion or a belief system or whatever, right? Or a non-belief system. Okay, so say for example, as I said, I come onto sacredtext.com because I've heard about mitochondrial DNA, and I find this in the heading Africa, and it states ultimately we are all Africans. Studies of mitochondrial DNA have proven that all human beings are descended from a small population, less than 100 individuals, that emerged from Africa about 60,000 years ago. The earliest written religious texts, as well as the first documented monotheistic religion, also developed in Africa. During European ages, many ancient manuscripts were preserved in African libraries in places such as Ethiopia and Timbuktu. So my main stress is here, this sentence here. Right? Ultimately, we are all Africans. So I assume, right, we'll come to the belief that this is fact. So I go around running around telling you, anyway, ultimately we're all Africans. And here's my source, right? Okay, because this is the reason why I'm pushing it at that point. To everybody else, the studies of mitochondrial DNA have proven, there's a key word there, proven, right, that all human beings, every single one of us, are descended from a small population, less than 100 individuals. So that's where you've got to be careful, right? Because here it's also all in the wording. And ultimately, first and foremost, we are all Africans. We are all human beings, and we're all Africans. Why? Because studies of mitochondrial DNA have proven, right, it's a fact, that all human beings are descended from a small population, less than 100 individuals. But here it changes. It says less than 100 individuals. Okay? So we all came from less than 100 individuals that emerged from Africa about 60,000 years ago. Okay? And is that proof, or is that just an assumption? Because what I'm seeing in historical videos that prove, the historical records are proving that this is possibly, I'll put brackets around that, right? It's possibly not true, not fact. Okay? The earliest written religious texts, as well as the first documented monotheistic religion, also developed in Africa. Okay, there's another statement there that may not be true. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. During the European Dark Ages, many ancient manuscripts were preserved in African libraries in places such as Ethiopia and Timbuktu. So many ancient manuscripts during the European Dark Ages were preserved in African libraries. So these, let's say, ancient European manuscripts were preserved in Africa. Okay? That's what it seems to be saying to me. In places such as Ethiopia, again, or Kush, former Kush, and Timbuktu. This section has texts on the traditional spirituality of sub-Saharan African as well as their descendants in the New World. It's all African culture, all their religious beliefs, right? Their cultural, traditional religious beliefs. There's no mention of them having an African Bible or an African Old Testament or New Testament in Africa. There's nothing in this section, right? It's all African, like Bantu, Maasai, all those sort of African tribes, right? Their folklore from way back. There's no mention of Jesus or Jesus starting from there or anything like that. Christianity, whatever, nothing. Okay? Again, this section has texts on the traditional spirituality of sub-Saharan Africa as well as their descendants in the New World. Finding books about African religion and spiritual beliefs in the public domain, once they're in the public domain, or they're accessible to everybody out there, was not difficult. These books have a great amount of useful information on this topic, some of it written before colonialism destroyed or greatly modified aspects of traditional culture. The problem with these works, make a note of this, the problem with these works in this section is that they were for the large part written by Europeans with their particular biases and agendas. For this reason, we encourage you, that's internet, sacred texts, sacredtext.com, right? We encourage you to read between the lines. So you've got to do your own personal research, you find out, establish the facts that are claimed as facts, and the so-called evidence as evidence, prove that it's irrefutable. Okay? Meaning it can't be denied because it's been proven beyond a doubt, irrefutable or evident. Okay? The texts here are provided for scholarly purposes. They may, okay, take that, put that in your head. They may contain racist characterizations, errors of interpretation, or misrepresentations of traditional culture. For instance, the term kafir, which is used in many of these texts to refer to the Xhosa Nelson Mandela's tribe, is now considered derogatory. Okay, it's racist, it's put down. Go to find that word if you don't believe that's what it means. Okay, it's a slur against those particular people. This page also has texts and books with alternate views, primarily written by African Americans, US Negroes, okay, movements like Hebrew Israelites, whatever, black movements, primarily written by African Americans, which, in our opinion, at sacredtext.com, not mine, also deserve consideration. Okay. Africa is home to a rich religious tradition. It's not Christianity. You go look at the section I'll probably show to you. Right? Why? I should say there's no mention of Christianity. Well, there is, but it's nothing. It's not like it was originally from there. Okay. Africa is home to a rich religious tradition referred to ancient Egypt, Islam, and Christianity. And so go down here. It's the religious system of the Amazulu, specimen of Bushman folklore, South African folktales, Kafir, Xhosa folklore, myths and legends of the Bantu, Western Central African myths of Ife, I don't know how you say it's African, notes on the folklore of the fjord, at the back of the black man's mind, folk stories from southern Nigeria, fetishism, that in West Africa, Hasawa folklore, Yoruba speaking peoples, Yoruba legends. You've got the comparatives, legend and myth, drums and shadows, and Caribbean, Rastafarianism, and so forth, right? Down here, many of these here. And then you've got the Afrocentric historians. These are these US Negroes, they into their black movement, all that sort of stuff. Good on them. They need some sort of identity. They can try and find their identity. They're going about the Negro in 1915. Wonderful Ethiopians of the ancient Kushite Empire. Stolen legacy. Okay. Did the Greeks steal classical philosophy from an ancient Egyptian mystery tradition? Probably did. As far as I can see in Alexandria, Ptolemy 1, 2, they were doing that. Maybe Alexander. Who was there? The Greeks that were there? Yeah, they were doing that. Plagiarizing apparently. Okay, you got to do your own personal research and check it out. So what I'm basically trying to get out here, right? Get across to you. Let's have a look at this first. Okay, is a Reverend Henry Callaway, obviously a European, writing on about the Unkugulu, whatever that name is, Amatongo, or their what they believe in, right? Let's have a look at that. The Lord of Heaven. Okay, the Lord of Heaven. In the previous pages we meet with frequent allusions to a Lord above or heavenly Lord. Thunder and lightning and aerial changes appear to be the only natural phenomena which have attracted the notice of the natives of this part of Africa and led them to believe in the personal power above nature. Struck with terror by a thunderstorm, they encourage each other by asserting that they have committed no crime against a powerful being in heaven who wields the lightning, that he is not angry but merely playing. But we shall be much mistaken if we hasten to conclude from this that because they speak of a heavenly Lord, they have any conception of him which identifies him with a God, or a God, right? That God, particular Christian or European Christian God. Okay? Struck with terror by a thunderstorm, they encourage each other by asserting that they have committed no crime against the powerful being in heaven who wields the lightning, and that he is not angry but merely playing. But we shall be mistaken, much mistaken, if we hasten to conclude from this that because they speak of a heavenly Lord, they have any conception of him which identifies with God. In almost every country there is some such notion of a heavenly being, a relic possibly of heaven worship, or it may be merely a natural suggestion of the human mind, springing up spontaneously among different peoples, and everywhere leading to a similar conclusion that where there are such manifestations of power, there is also a personal cause. There is the Indian, Indra, called also the Lord of Heaven, the Zeus and Jupiter of the Greeks and Romans, the Esquimaux, I don't know how you say that, Soma, the Mal, or Yefe of Fida, the So or Kilisio Damon, and so on and so forth, the Bushman, the Thor of our own ancestors, and all that sort of stuff. Plenty more information there, you can read it in your own time, at your own leisure. But yeah, that's basically backing up the statement I made that there wasn't this Christianity as claimed by many Hebrew Israelites, etc. That it all started in Africa. Yeah, so don't be fooled by their hype. Yeah. Go and do your own personal research and find out the facts, establish the facts, right? The evidence, the proof, right? Because they're probably leading you down a funny path, you know. They're leading you astray, right? What a crap. But yeah, I guess they're looking for their own roots, the identity, good on them, you know, no worries there. Okay, all for that. Yeah, because a lot of what they actually say, you know, about the ancestors, whatever, yeah, it's pretty much fact. Okay. But yeah, then they add a whole lot of this made up stuff like Yahoo, Waki, you know, all this sort of stuff when it's not Hebrew. I can prove that through a professor, a doctor. He's got two doctorates, right, in Hebrew, Aramaic, and whatever. And I've asked him the question, Dr. James Francisco, I think his name is. And he says, what the hell is that name? They're just making it up. It's not in the Hebrew. You know, where are they getting this Yahi, Waki, you know, stuff from? He says, they're just making it up. Okay, so that basically tells you that, right? Okay. And in comparison, there's a guy here who has a documentary. Well, it's probably a podcast, but it's been made into this film. It's got this footage here, whatever, right? Someone done, he says, oh, you can't really do yourself justice by calling it a podcast. The quality is like 10 times higher than any podcast. Well, I always thought a podcast was just a recording of someone's interview, you know. And you should at least call it a documentary, but it is more than 2 hours long, so it's a super documentary. Yeah, people get different comments for it. But he basically says this.
In this episode, I want to go back to the very beginning and look at a society that is one of the candidates for the first ever technological human civilization.
Yeah, okay, so he's saying, technological civilization, with that sort of stuff. Maybe say something a bit further.
These are the people of Sumer, who we call the Sumerians. I want to show how, over the course of millennia, the Sumerians would build a society that would form the blueprint for all that followed after. I want to show how they rose to invent writing, mathematics and the wheel, and built the largest cities that humanity had ever seen.
So he's saying they were the first create civilization, the civilization that created mathematics and writing. They invented the wheel. Okay, I've read somewhere else that a translator said that the Mesopotamians were the first to create mathematics and all this sort of stuff, and the wheel, you know, all this. They were the first civilization, but I've read and heard somewhere else that civilization basically means you're united, you don't fight each other, kill each other off, like many of these so-called civilizations did. They rose up and fought against each other, destroyed each other, went on to destroy other people, you know, whereas ones like ancient Kemet or Egypt, you know, they did that for a while apparently, then they banded together for one great nation, you know, became civilized, you know, had the odd war with everybody else to keep them, you know, not taking their lands and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you know, protecting the borders and stuff. But yeah, they were what you call civil, so they were a civilization, weren't they? Okay, so yeah, so what am I trying to get at here? Okay, I've just given you two examples. One of the African mitochondrial DNA, proving that, you know, it's supposed to be all came from Africa, from 100 individuals, whereas against this historical documentary here or podcast stating that the Sumerians were the first civilization, and they created mathematics, writing, even the wheel, all that sort of stuff, right? And others like adapted it, and adopted and adapted it, right? And it went on and on like that. Okay, yeah, so go research your own personal experiences. Research your own personal experiences, making them your very own, and in order to become, you know, better human being, have a better character. I was listening to a Shannon Lee podcast on Harvard University, and I found that this system that he was talking about is way better. Like relying on the gurus that give all this information, and half of it's, some of it's true, some of it's helpful, half of it's crap, you know, totally useless. In order to how do you put it, bring out your best human being, you know, as a better human being, and the best of you, and that sort of stuff. Okay, yeah, and you don't have to take everything that you come across as true or fact, and in the case of these documentaries, and it's on here, right, as examples about the African, you know, all being descendants of Africa according to mitochondrial DNA. Someone else can talk about science says, and Darwin says, and the monkey in the zoo says, you know, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, you don't have to take it just because they're pushing it and saying, oh, you're an idiot, and blah, 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 blah. This is what it says. You have to accept it. You don't. That's what Presley was saying in that podcast, or in his books, according to Shannon Lee. Research your own personal experiences, making them your very own in order to become a better human being, you know, more of a human being, to be able to develop your own beliefs, you know, all that sort of stuff. Express yourself instead of being an imitation of someone else, you know, merely parroting all their documentation, is, you know, and so forth. Yeah, but you don't have to take everything that you come across as true or fact as in this case, as there is other irrefutable evidence, as in the Sumerian video. Civilization began there, according to that historical record, the real historical record. Listen to statements of proven historicity, i.e. the historical records. But in saying this, don't settle for this, or the documentary, as so-called truth. Go do further research on this, establishing the so-called facts, claim as facts, the presented evidence as evidence, or irrefutable or undeniable evidence, right? Because there's so much information out there, misinformation, disinformation, so much myth, hype, BS, you get flooded by it all. And like, okay, I would have found with religiosity, all these religions, they're pumping out all the stuff that they've been told is the real truth and all that sort of stuff, right? Pumped and brainwashed, and they're going out there parroting it. And they're like, do you even know what you're talking about? You've got, let's say for example, you've got a 16th Bible. Do you speak Shakespearean? And do you fully understand the mindset of that kind of dialect? Because that's what it basically is, Shakespearean. Or do you understand what the old ancient scribes in the original manuscripts, be it in Aramaic, Assyrian Aramaic, Hebrew, Yiddish, or whatever? Do you actually understand what they were writing and trying to get across to their potential readers or their possible future readers, right? Because you're seeing in English, you've got the Western mindset, so you obviously understand or see it black and white and understand it, and form your own opinions, ideas, perspectives, whatever. In English, okay, using that Western mindset, but it's all Eastern mindset. It's written by an Eastern scribe, right? He's got this Eastern mindset, from his culture and language and all that sort of stuff, his traditions, whatever. So he's possibly using idioms which are an expression, but when in English they don't actually mean what we think they mean. They mean something completely different, or they just don't really make sense and confuse us, and we come to the wrong conclusion that this guy is saying this when he wasn't, or this was said by Jesus or the 12 disciples or whatever when he actually was. Okay, so cut out the hype and the fluff and the BS, statements that it all began, Christianity began in Africa and all that sort of stuff. Okay, I know there's paintings out there of black popes and all this sort of stuff, but maybe someone might be having a laugh at your expense way back then, or the churches or whatever, that's why you've got to go do your own personal research, establish the facts as facts, claim facts as facts, prove the evidence is evident, undeniable, irrefutable, because what I found in all these ancient African folklore, these writings and stuff, maybe they may have been tampered with by Europeans, that, like the guy said, just because they see sort of lightning and thunder and all that, so if we have done anything wrong to the higher powers, doesn't mean that they're talking about a God, right? It's mentioned in this book here, or this section here, the Lord of Heaven. Now you go through it and read it, because it's quite interesting stuff, right? It says, for at first when the Dutch came, the white men used to make us swear to the truth of what we said, for they did not understand what a man said when he swore by our chiefs. So the oath was, Chikso o Pazuli, God of heaven, or I swear by the Lord of heaven. And one spat on his finger and pointed towards heaven and said, may he take me if I know this thing. The word Ukabadele means the Lord of heaven, and kneeling is a sign of strength, for it is said if a man wished to make himself very firm, and bathe himself with all his strength, he kneels that he may not be moved from his place, and the man who is fighting with him will go away. That then is what is meant by Badele. They pass on or have enough, that is, they leave from where he is now. Okay, it goes on like that. And so it's not saying, I'm pointing to heaven, to Jesus Christ, or Yahweh, or Yeshua, or whoever, right? It's just some higher power up there, where the light is coming from. Okay. Yeah, and it wasn't until later on that they were persuaded by Europeans that that's God, it's, it's Jesus, and all that sort of stuff, and then they converted to it. Sometimes by force, sometimes by their own opinion, but by their own choosing. Right? But yeah, many times it was just by force, threat, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so yeah, I guess that was longer than a minute, but hopefully you found it interesting, really interesting, and it's merely a suggestion. It's not like a holy grail, but yeah, go and do your own research on your own personal experiences to become a real human being, a true human being, and truly express yourself. All that sort of stuff. Go look at my video. I think it's up on Couch Humor. It'll be on Clever Sausage channel. Real juicy news. Yeah, about Bruce Lee and his books. Through sharing me saying, research your own personal experiences, make them your own, and so forth. Okay, we will see you next time. Alright, don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, a like, share it, tell them how great Real Truth TV is. It's like revealed stuff that you had no clue of. Okay, and leave comments down below, and we'll get back to them as soon as we can. Hi, the Couch Kuma once again on the end of this video. I forgot to say this. Basically I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, okay, in regards to like this information here, on the internet, sacredtext.com, about we all being African, studies of mitochondrial DNA have proven that all human beings are descended from a small population, less than 100 individuals, that emerged from Africa about 60,000 years ago. The earliest written religious text, as well as the first documented monotheistic religion, also developed in Africa. Okay, as I was saying, this could be an error. Okay, could be wrong. If in accordance with this documentary and many like it, that Sumeria was the first civilization, right? And they created the first math, language, even invented the world, right? That, yeah, again, this could be totally wrong, but it could be. Why I'm putting an extra on here is because maybe, in accordance with the Bible, how was the Bible around here somewhere? Yeah, I've got a modern version on me, man. I might go from the top of my head. That in the beginning of Genesis, in the beginning of creation, whatever, there's these 4 rivers. There's one river that emerged out of Genesis, right, watered with paradise or whatever, so everything could grow and all that sort of stuff. Fish, sea life and all this sort of stuff, and they multiply and all that sort of stuff. And then it branches out to these 4 heads, or these 4 divisions, or 4 rivers, like the Gihon, the Pishon, the Euphrates, and the Tigris, right? And different people like the Ashurites, the Ashurite, Assyrians come from there, maybe the Euphrates, the Egyptians ended up coming from there, emerging from there, and so forth, right? The one river, Gihon or Pishon, or whatever, that runs through the land of Havilah, Cush, where the Ethiopians supposedly came from, all that sort of story, right? Then maybe after that Tower of Babel, God says, they can do anything, so knock it down, scatter them and give them this language. Then people says, we need a national name or a nation name, so if we get scattered across the earth, we'll be able to call ourselves by that. So apparently Babylon, that's the word they used, right, called themselves Babylon. Then after that, people split, as the Bible says, scattered all across the nations, across the land, whatever, and became this people, right? Then you've got the Noah's flood, the Ark story, whatever. The sons emerge out of it after, and they become the forefathers of the Akhenates, Gog, Magog, all these different people, right? Nations that came along, right? They're the descendants of their descendants of their descendants of their descendants, right? Or descendants of their sons, and all that sort of stuff, right? Brush up, and they fought against each other, and cousins, relations, whatever. all that sort of stuff. They became these mini nations. Okay, the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Assyrians, the Persians, whatever. Okay? So maybe these people, because they're in different areas, right? One area, like the Neanderthal man, that science has proven, archaeology has proven that existed. They found those skulls, remains, whatever, tools, whatever. But they live in caves and colder areas, and they hunt for their food and all that sort of stuff. They're clumsy because they're bigger, bigger, brawnier, but they're clumsy, slower, right? So they use the animal skins as clothing, fur, whatever, to keep warm during the colder climates. Maybe they move on somewhere else that's a bit warmer and it's colder, in Europe, whatever, in that European area. Whereas some people have scattered to the left and gone towards Africa, right? That sort of stuff, right? And come to Africa. So there's like a group of 100 people, like it says here, 100 individuals, were a small population, less than 100 individuals, emerged from Africa about 60,000 years ago. So they came out of, didn't they? That means they came out of, right? They were there, then they came out of. So maybe, if the Bible account is true, this old ancient manuscripts, like the Syrian or Assyrian that I've done in videos, it's actually true, right? And it's all fact, whatever. And these people actually emerged from this so-called Great Flood, this Babylonian tower collapse, all meeting in one area, Sumer or Sumeria. Because you understand, you've got Sumer in the Bible, or Shina, S-U-M-E-R. The I-A on the end of it is what they call an end prefix. Okay. You also have ik on the end of words. That's a end prefix. Go to find a word online, so you don't think I'm lying to you, right? It's a borrowed or loaned word from the Greek, the old Greek, or the Latin, right? Okay. And supposedly it means that that language, right, is possessed by those people that spoke it in that region. They're the owners of that religion, that language, right? Okay. Yeah. Go check out the end prefix IA or here and back with that information. So yeah. So yeah, as I say, these people probably went that way, right? That fight river, whatever, getting warmer climates, hotter climates. Yeah, it's better for them, and they became a more developed people. They went bulky and slow, and had to run miles to catch the animal because it forced every kid to go and get it. Whatever. They had like more advanced spears and stuff like that, or weapons, and then they got into agriculture and all that sort of stuff like that. This video here was stating they may have thrown their scraps of food in the pile and suddenly, lemon trees and banana trees and palm trees and whatever, started running around with this fruit on it that they'd previously eaten. So I thought, well, okay, we'll chuck it over there, see what happens. Hey, next season it starts growing another one. Oh, plenty of fruit, right? So they got plenty of supply, so they call it this idea, well, we'll call that agriculture, right? We'll replicate or duplicate that action, so we have plenty of food. We don't have to go hunting for all the time. I mean, you can't grow animals, I suppose. Chuck the bones in the ground and up comes an animal. But yeah, like the fruit and all that, the veggies. Yeah, and then they probably developed ways to keep the birds out, other animals out from eating all that, because maybe they just totally destroyed all the crops one year. So, damn birds, damn bugs, what do we do? So yeah, basically like that. So if you hear this hype that all started in Africa, and this historical documents, this historicity proves, science, archaeology, whatever proves beyond a doubt, but it's irrefutable, it's fact, established fact, that it all started, say, at some point in the Middle East, in accordance with the Bible, or they're just telling you basically the same thing but adding bits and pieces to it to make it sound spectacular, divine, whatever. Go do your own research, prove it out for yourself. Okay, so yeah, that's what I decided I'll stick on you in a bit because I completely forgot about it. Yeah, so hopefully you liked it, and if you like this entire video, then please subscribe, click the icon, give us a thumbs up or a like, share it with your best friends, tell them how great Real TV, Truth TV is, you know. Yeah, you get the fact you don't get all this hype and fluff, right? You get told how it is, but that punch is pulled.